Density, altitude, and a lack of aircraft performance claims another aircraft, this time in the Bighorn Mountains just to the west of Sheridan, Wyoming, involving a Piper Cherokee 28 180 horsepower aircraft with 4 people on board. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the BLANCOLIRIO channel. Let's check it out. This accident occurred on Monday, the 1st of September, at nearly 5 p.m. local time, nearly the heat of the day. November 8307 Whiskey, a 1965 PA-28 180 Cherokee. That's a Cherokee with a 180 horse engine, fixed pitch propeller, and fixed gear, with 4 people on board, 1 fatality. If we look back at the flight history here on FlightAware, it looks like this aircraft has been flying back and forth between Wyoming and Idaho quite a bit this summer. And back on Saturday, the 30th of August, they successfully flew from Sheridan to Boise by climbing to 8,600, 8,700 feet, clearing the Bighorn Mountains. But they departed bright and early at 8:25 in the morning. On the day of the accident flight, it appears the pilot took off to the north, took a left turn, and head direct for the Bighorn Mountains, and was slowly climbing to just 6,300 feet before the data ended. If we look at the track log here at, now this is saying 4 o'clock Mountain local time, the aircraft was climbing at about 100 miles an hour, but was getting a rate of climb only between 100 to 500 feet per minute, indicating the thermal activity as the pilot was flying along. The pilot was able to maintain a positive rate of climb, but it varied quite a bit between 100 and 500 feet per minute. Not a lot of excess performance in this aircraft at that loading, at this time of the day, at this elevation. If we look back at the weather history at the time of departure, the temperature at the time was about 88 degrees. Winds out of the northeast at 10 miles an hour. The density altitude, given a standard pressure of 2992 at the field at Sheridan of 4,000 feet, 88 degrees, would give a density altitude approaching 7,000 feet. And if we download the KML data into Google Earth, we can see the pilot making a pretty quick left turn after taking off to the north out of Sheridan and heading straight for the Bighorn Mountains, perhaps heading for one of these passes over here. This data coming off of FlightAware may be a bit off, but look at that anemic climb rate as he approached the mountains. Not enough performance to clear this high terrain at that density altitude with that aircraft and that load. The name of the pilot has been released here on MTN Montana News, and it was the pilot with his family of 4 on board the aircraft at the time of the crash, and unfortunately his 13-year-old daughter died in the crash. And according to MTN News, who's done some research, they found that the pilot, Earl Palmer, had 2 previous episodes with the Department of Interior. One, he had an incident in a helicopter, and then a second incident in a fixed-wing aircraft where the pilot, Palmer, was basically fired from the Department of Interior as a pilot. Palmer was later able to regain his pilot's license. I don't know if he just lost his pilot flying privileges with the Department of Interior or with the FAA entirely. But apparently the pilot was able to borrow or use or rent this aircraft that was involved in the crash. And it looked like he'd been flying it quite a bit recently, back and forth between Sheridan and Boise. KTVQ News found a so-called aviation expert to put on their program, and this aviation expert, who goes by the name of Katz, I don't believe that's him there, I think that's the young reporter, was convinced that it was the age of the aircraft, the fact that it was a 1965 Cherokee, was the cause of the entire accident. These news stations, legacy media, you got to do a better job vetting your so-called aviation experts. So departing Sheridan, Wyoming at the heat of the day with 4 people on board your Cherokee 180 with a 180 horse Lycoming engine, probably just got a load of fuel here at Sheridan. And proceeding right to the high terrain of these mountains, density altitude is definitely going to be a factor in this, and the aeronautical decision making of the pilot to make this flight in these conditions with this load. To me, it seems, in my opinion, that this pilot has the experience to handle these mountains. He's an experienced mountain pilot. To me, it seems like this pilot simply got complacent with his routine flight over these mountains and attempted it too late in the afternoon to safely clear these mountains with his aircraft in these conditions at this load weight. Now, the NTSB will go through the painstaking procedure of checking out everything they can find from the engine once they recover it from the wreckage to make sure there wasn't anything wrong there. But it's pretty clear to me, looking at the performance of this aircraft, that engine failure was probably not the problem. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that support this work. See you here.